The morning light seeped through the towering trees of the whispering forest, painting the ground with shifting patches of gold. The air smelled of damp moss, and the distant sound of a waterfall echoed like a song carried by the breeze. Forests lived many creatures, both ordinary and magical, but none as peculiar as the wandering wooden figure who slouched along the mossy path that morning. He was a mischievous, talking wooden creature, shaped like a tall upright log, with a smooth cylindrical body and a rounded top that shone faintly in the sunlight. His polished light orange wood texture glistened, the vertical grain lines catching shadows in ways that made him seem alive. His large, droopy brown eyes looked sleepy yet curious, and his thick, curved eyebrows rose and fell as he studied every leaf and pebble. His oversized, cartoonish bare feet slapped softly against the dirt. As he shuffled forward, his posture slightly bent as though he carried the weight of the forest's secrets. He often felt silly and melancholic, a strange mix of playfulness and sadness, but today he felt a stirring in his chest, something unusual. The forest was unusually quiet, and he tilted his small, rounded wooden nose upward, sensing that change was in the air. He passed ferns that swayed as though whispering warnings, and small squirrels who darted past him, their eyes wide with fear. Above, crows circled in uneven patterns, their caws sharp and frantic. The wooden creature paused, leaning on a tree with one long, thin arm, his five-fingered wooden hand brushing against the rough bark. His expressive cartoon-style mouth twisted into a frown. "Something is wrong," he muttered in his raspy voice. Though no one was around to hear him, he followed the uneasy signs deeper into the forest, stepping over roots and ducking beneath vines. The silence was heavier now, as though the forest itself was holding its breath. Then, faintly, he heard it, a desperate cry, high-pitched, echoing, filled with panic, the cry of a bird. His heart, though carved from wood, felt it. That sound was not ordinary. It was sharp and trembling, like a call for help. The wooden creature's thick brows furrowed, and he stumbled forward quickly, drawn to the sound. His oversized feet squelched in damp earth, his arms swinging with urgency. As he moved closer, the cry grew clearer. "Squawk! Squawk! Help!" The voice belonged to a parrot, though its words were broken, desperate, and frantic. He rushed through a thicket, vines tugging at his wooden limbs, and emerged into a clearing. There, bathed in streaks of golden light, was a tall tree with branches twisted like outstretched arms. High above, a parrot with emerald green feathers and a crimson beak flapped furiously. Its wings were tangled in vines, the cruel tendrils holding it captive. The parrot screeched again, thrashing wildly, but the more it struggled, the tighter the vines clung. The wooden creature's droopy brown eyes widened with worry, placed his hand over his small nose as though steadying himself. This was why the forest had fallen silent. This was the cry he had been destined to hear. The parrot's wings beat the air in frantic bursts, feathers scattering like emerald leaves in the sunlight. Its eyes darted wildly, glistening with fear as the vines tightened their grip. The parrot's cries carried across the clearing. Trembling with exhaustion, the wooden creature shuffled forward, his slouched body bobbing with each awkward step, his oversized feet squished in the moss as he craned his head upward, his thick, curved eyebrows furrowing with determination, his cartoon-style mouth curled into a sad frown. "Don't be afraid," he whispered, though his raspy voice trembled with its own uncertainty. The parrot squawked louder, as if mistrusting the stranger, but the wooden figure knew it wasn't the time to hesitate. His long, thin wooden arms stretched upward, but the parrot was far too high. He stomped his oversized foot in frustration, sending a puff of dust into the air. The vines above seemed almost alive, slithering and tightening around the bird like snakes, dragging its wings painfully against the branches. The parrot let out a pitiful screech, its emerald feathers dulled by panic. The wooden creature's eyes drooped further, sadness swelling in him. He remembered what it felt like to be trapped, not in vines, but in loneliness, in silence, in the sorrow of being a wooden soul, wandering among flesh and fur. He could not let the parrot suffer the same. With awkward determination, he clambered toward the base of the tree. His bare, cartoon feet slipped on the mossy roots, and his lanky arms flailed for balance. He grabbed the bark, his wooden hands scraping against its roughness. Slowly, clumsily, he began to climb. The parrot squawked again, this time weaker, its voice trembling like a dying flame. The creature's eyebrows curved upward in grief. His slouched posture bent even further, as though the weight of responsibility pressed down on him. The forest watched in silence. Not a leaf stirred, not a bird sang. It was as though every living thing waited to see if the strange wooden being could succeed. Halfway up the trunk, he stopped to catch his breath. Of course, he had no lungs, no heart pounding in his chest. But he still felt fatigued, the weight of his wooden limbs, the stretch of his joints. He looked upward at the parrot, who hung limply now, its once vibrant wings pinned by vines. "I'm coming," he rasped, his expressive mouth forming the words like a promise. The vines seemed to sense his approach. They shivered against the bark, tightening around the parrot as though guarding their prize. The bird squawked weakly in pain. The wooden creature's large eyes hardened with determination. He reached higher, pulling himself upward with jerky, unsteady movements. His slouched figure looked ridiculous against the grand tree, but his will was fierce. Step by step, handhold by handhold, he climbed toward the desperate parrot. Asterisk.